The Nintendo Switch had a small launch, but a good one, as the many reviews of the new Legend of Zelda game have shown itself. But now it's the time for me to dive into this game, let you guys know what I think of it, especially from a handheld gamer's perspective. So let's get this started because this is going to be a lengthy review. Here is my review of the Nintendo Switch version of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. "100 years ago, the entire land of Hyrule was ravaged by a force of evil known as Calamity Ganon. Now, a century later, a young warrior named Link awakens in an ancient shrine of resurrection with no memories of his past. He is called upon by someone attempting to keep Ganon from freely roaming around and destroying what's left of Hyrule. The young Link then emerges from the shrine, tasked with going out into the vast lands of Hyrule, appeasing giant machines known as divine beasts that were once used by Ganon, and heading to Hyrule Castle to take out the Calamity once and for all. Now, the plot of Breath of the Wild, there's a lot more story and a lot more character development than any other Legend of Zelda game I've ever played. I mean, you've got all of the current things that you normally have with side quest stories with NPCs, but the overall timeline and the backstory you get through memories that you unlock as you progress through the game really show a character depth that I haven't seen in the series before. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is unique to the Zelda series because it brings the series to the open world genre. Now, when I say open world, I'm not talking about Ocarina of Time open world where you could freely explore Hyrule Field. I'm talking the Elder Scrolls open, Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 open. To give you an idea on how big this world actually is, people on the web did a size comparison and found that Breath of the Wild's world map was larger than the world map from the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. That's just how huge this world is. Now, when you progress in the game, you start trapped on a smallish plateau, and you're sent to 4 different shrine-like dungeons, where you basically get all of your tools that you'll need for the open world. Once you do all that, the entire world map is open to you, and you can freely explore this giant world to your heart's content. Exploring this world isn't as easy as it may sound. There are a lot of survival elements thrown into the game. First of all of your shields, bows, and swords have durability. So if you use them too much, they're going to break and you're going to have to find new swords, new shields, new bows to use. The second is the fact that you have to collect food from around the world or dropped from enemies to be able to replenish your hearts. And there's a cooking mechanic so that you can cook the food to be that much more effective, aka restoring more hearts when you eat it. The biggest survival element, though, is areas with environmental hazards. You're going to come across a lot of areas that are too hot or too cold to navigate in normal clothing. So we have an equipment system for that. A lot of the equipment will change your appearance, but a lot of the other equipment is built to protect you from these environmental conditions. For a lot of the main dungeons that you're going to do, like when you go do the dungeon on Death Mountain, you need armor to protect you from the extreme heat, otherwise your body will catch fire and you will die. When you get to one of these areas, you're going to be able to buy this armor set, or you'll be able to earn the armor set by doing a side quest. But it's a very crucial thing because a lot of the dungeons are built around these environmental conditions, which means that you can't just take a few heat-resistant potions with you, because what if you have a real brain-tease puzzle and you use up all your potions before you get to the boss? You're in trouble. So it's worth it to go out of your way to get these armor sets. Now, going out of the survival elements, there are a lot of options once you hit the open world. Like once you get out of the plateau and you hit the open world, your basic objective is going to be going to 4 main dungeons to appease the divine beasts, collecting Link's memories, and then going and storming Hyrule Castle to wipe out Calamity Ganon for once and for all. Or you could do 2 dungeons and go fight Ganon. Or you could do no dungeons and go fight Ganon. You can go through up there and fight the final boss anytime you want. Granted, it's not a very good idea because the final boss is challenging even with late game equipment. But you can if you want to. There are a lot of different options available to you. And even outside of main story objectives, there's a ton of side quest stuff for you to do. You can do side quests for NPCs on any town or city that you come across as you explore the world. Plus, there's a bunch of other stuff you can do. You can buy a house and customize it with furniture and extra features. You can build a town from scratch. You can catch wild horses and customize them with special manes and saddles. For not being an RPG, there is just a staggering amount of content packed into this game. Now, another thing I want to mention is that this is not an easy game. Survival is a big key thing here, because this is the hardest Legend of Zelda game I've ever played, or one of the hardest. Not in the matter of finding where you need to go, it's just the matter of surviving. Learning to fight some of these bosses is very difficult. And finally, time. As with any open world game, you're going to be spending a lot of time in this game. If you do the game right, you do the 4 main dungeons, you go for the memories, and then you go to Hyrule Castle to fight the final boss to get the true ending. If you do it like this, I don't really see anyone being able to beat the game their first try in under 40 hours. You're going to be spending a lot of time with this game. A lot of time. Now let's get to presentation. Visually, the game looks beautiful. In TV mode, the graphics look practically flawless, like you're watching a PS4 game. With the cel-shaded graphics, it's like watching or playing Gravity Rush 2. Now when you're in handheld mode, there are a few jagged edges here and there, but it's still beyond anything you'd see from a current day handheld like the 3DS or the PlayStation Vita. It's just a beautiful game. And the music score is just as beautiful. If you're a fan of the series, you're going to find a lot of key areas with great remixes and mashup tracks full of classic Zelda tracks. Now, performance is one thing I wanted to talk about specifically. Breath of the Wild on the Nintendo Switch is not without a few frame drops here and there. A lot of the time, you're running a nice and smooth 30 frames per second, but in some of the more object-heavy areas, you're going to see it drop down to about 20 or 25 frames. Surprisingly enough, if you take the system out of TV mode and put it into handheld mode, it runs significantly better. Granted, these frame drops aren't anything that's going to affect your gameplay, but they're noticeable, especially when you've got it in TV mode. Finally, we need to talk about battery life. Every single Nintendo Switch game review I do is going to have battery life information, because I've been playing Breath of the Wild and I've been playing I Am Setsuna, and the longevity of the battery between the two games is surprisingly different. So, when you're playing Zelda Breath of the Wild on the go, here's how long the unit will last. If you've got your brightness all the way up and your Wi-Fi turned on, you're looking at around 2 hours and 36 minutes. If you turn Wi-Fi off but keep the max brightness up, you're looking at 3 hours. Now, if you got low brightness and Wi-Fi turned off, you're running 3 hours and 12 minutes. And if you've got the brightness on low and the Wi-Fi turned on, you're looking at 2 hours and 50 minutes. So overall with Zelda, you're going to get somewhere between 2.5 and 3 hours of time. That's not a whole lot of time compared to other games, but that's what you're going to get. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild takes the series into the open world genre, showcasing a beautiful world, a breathtaking amount of content, and a very challenging survival experience. The frame drops are going to annoy you in TV mode, but it's only a small blemish on an otherwise fantastic game. Reviews to Go rates The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild a 9 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to comment on them below or head to my website at www.reviewstogo.com.